Hey everyone, welcome back to Pro Volley USA, episode 5, The Career of Kiraly. So, Karch, there are so many accolades that you can talk about, whether that's on the court, on the stand, or as a coach now for the women's national team. But I'm just going to name a couple of the most prestigious ones. So, in 1984 and 1988, you won an Olympic gold medal with the USA indoor men's volleyball team. And then jumping forward to 96, when beach volleyball was introduced in the Olympics, you won your first gold medal on the stand as well. And then jumping all the way to 2020 in the recent Olympics, you won your fourth gold medal with the USA women's national team in the 2020 Olympics. So, Karch, no player has ever won 4 Olympic gold medals in the history of volleyball. And so we are in very great company. And with that being said, Karch, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you, Brooke. It's wonderful to visit and to see you again after we got to work together a little in the USA gym. So excited for the college fall season coming. Excited for our USA team as we've got some big tournaments coming up, including World Championships. And then excited to see what comes in 2023 and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to get started. And I mean, your experience is unmatched at the highest level of volleyball. So the first thing I'd love to hear about is just your professional overseas experience as a player.
A lot of people don't know this, but when I first joined the men's team back in the Stone Ages of volleyball, that was 1981, we actually had a rule. Our team was ranked 19th in the world. We were a very weak team, and we had a lot of work to do. So USA Volleyball and the coaching staff made a decision and created a rule. And that was that was me, my teammates. We either committed to being with the USA men full-time year-round, or we played overseas. That's very different than now, where most players, national team players, not just from the USA, but from almost every country, split their time each year and play part of their time with a professional team and part of time with their national team. So I only actually played 2 professional seasons once they changed that rule. Again, the rule was understandable. We couldn't play overseas. They wanted us to spend 50 weeks a year together. We had so much work to do to try to claw our way out of the hole in as the 19th ranked team in the world and try to work our way up to number 1. We eventually succeeded in doing that. So it was a good decision that we stuck together. Now that's not necessary. So once they changed that rule, just as I had retired from the USA men's team and was getting back to beach full time, I played 2 professional seasons in Italy. It was a wonderful experience. At that time, the league in Italy, it was like a world all-star league. The best players from Cuba, from Poland, from Russia, from the USA, from Brazil, from Argentina, were all playing in that league. And I got to play for a team called Il Messaggero Ravenna. Ravenna is a town on the east coast of Italy, not too on the northeast, not so far from Venice and from Bologna. And we got treated really well there. And I got to go with my great friend and probably my favorite indoor teammate of all time, Steve Timmons. Some people will remember that name and certainly remember his look. He was just this great player, tall, strong, good-looking guy with the red flat top, and so he had a very distinctive haircut, and he rocked it. And so we got to play together for 2 indoor Olympics, and then also for 2 seasons in Italy, and won some big championships there, and played with a bunch of great Italian guys too. So wonderful experience there. The biggest challenge of that was that my wife and I went over with our first child, and he was only 3 weeks old as we went over there. And that was incredibly difficult for her not to have her mom around or my mom around, not to have any grandmas, any aunts, anybody to help. And he had a very strong case of colic. So she spent a lot of very tough nights and very little sleep. Once we got him past that, it was a lot easier, but I loved it because I also not only got to have this playing experience, but I got to learn Italian, which I still get to use a few times a year. and the people there were wonderful. They're really passionate about volleyball.
That's amazing. I actually didn't know that you guys spent 50 weeks out of the year together, and I'm sure that built chemistry a lot. We're going to kind of talk about how the women's national team members are going overseas and coming back, and how we have to earn that chemistry a lot quicker than those teams that are playing together. But shifting gears just a little, now moving on to your perspective as the women's national team coach, can you tell us some of the advantages for the national team athletes to be playing overseas with and against some of the best in the world?
I think there's a great benefit. Would I love it if our team were together more than, let's say, 6-7 months a year? Yeah, it would be amazing. But the opposite side of it, the big benefit is that when we're competing as USA, we can only have 7 people on the court at any given instant, which means 7 other people are not on the court, and probably 14 or 15 are at home training. And so out of 7 getting competitive experience, maybe 21 or 22 are not at the exact same time. So that's the real benefit of having lots of American players on lots of good club teams in countries like Turkey, Italy, Poland, Germany, France, Brazil, Japan, China, and others, is that a lot of our players are getting a good 30 to 40 matches of high-level experience, and also getting the not easy experience, but it's a good experience of, let's say, being one of the people that the professional team says, look, we're paying you well, you need to produce for us, we're paying you to help us win. That is not an easy pressure to manage, but ultimately it's a good thing to have that kind of responsibility. And so with our players dispersing and playing for all of these good teams, they get to play in tournaments and semifinals and finals and regular season and playoffs, and all of that, I think, adds to the experience that they bring to us. The other benefit is that when they play with somebody, just like you, Brooke, when you play with somebody for a whole season, you really get to know her, you get to know her favorite shots. So then if she's Italian, and now we're going to play them in the next tournament, you can give us the whole book on her. Yep. Of course, she can give her team the whole book on you, but we still, if you're a better student of the game, your scouting report can be better than her scouting report. And we rely on our players a lot. They know best when they've played a season or more with somebody who is Serbian or Russian or Polish or Italian or whatever. They have great intel, and so they can add and make our scouting reports much, much more thorough, because you get to know somebody much better over a season than just watching a few matches.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I was thinking about the scouting report and kind of picking up different tricks and different shots that other players have. So that definitely can come in handy when we're competing against them later on.
Exactly.
So when you're looking at these different leagues that players are going off to, can you name any different advantages or disadvantages between different leagues, whether that's the length of calendar season or strength of competition or anything like that?
If I had to name or rank, and it's certainly not perfect at this, I don't know if anybody can really truly rank one league against another, but for several years, I think top to bottom, the Italian league has been the strongest, even if the best club team in the world happens to be based in Istanbul in Turkey. So, but top to bottom, it's on any given night in the regular season, doesn't matter how low a team is ranked, they can beat almost anybody. 2 years ago, the best team in Italy, and it's been the best team for a while, their name is Imoco Conegliano, they lost to the team that was in the bottom of the standings. That's how strong it was, even though they went on to win the regular season and the playoffs. So top to bottom, That's a really competitive league, and you have to fight for every point on every night. That's good for players to have to do that. Turkey, the few teams there, Vakifbank, Fenerbahce, Turkish Airlines, and Asazibashi. They're all based in Istanbul. Those four teams are quite strong, and then there's a pretty big drop-off after that. But those teams are some of the best teams in the world, some of the best coaches in the world. They treat the players well. Our players have played for a lot of those teams for all of those teams over the course of time. Japan is a really well-organized league, and they play insane defense. It's really hard to put the ball away. They don't have the best blocking, but they make up for it with great defense and these insanely long rallies where you got to break out the oxygen mask afterward because you're catching your breath after taking 15 jumps if you're a middle. Probably the downside of Japan is over the last couple of years, they have been probably the most fierce and conservative in lockdowns. So if you were to go play there, the first thing you got to do is go sit in a tiny hotel room and not be able to come out for 14 days. That is just not conducive to great mental health, and not conducive to you coming out of that and then being ready to go and fit and powerful and ready to play volleyball, as opposed to maybe more susceptible to injury. So the last couple of years, it's been a particular mental challenge for Americans who have played in Japan if their partner, husband, family couldn't come with them. Those who could, they could be together that whole time, and it worked out. China, it can be a good league too, although they've had some financial issues recently. So one of our players, Tori Dixon, was all scheduled to play there last season, and it didn't work out because her team all of a sudden lost their sponsorship and had no money. So there's certainly some challenges there and some COVID challenges. Brazil is a really nice, strong league, and they are so passionate about volleyball there. So I guess that's a summary of some of the top leagues in the world. Poland also is another quality league, but there are many more than that. We've got lots of players, like I said, in Germany, in France, and each league has its own strengths and disadvantages, and each offers different things in terms of like quality of life. If you like, good coffee and good food, Italy is not a bad place to be. So,
What about the calendar season? Do you have any preference on whether your women's national team members are playing in a 4-month season or if they're playing in a full 8 or 9-month season?
Good question. That's something I didn't mention. The Japanese season tends to be a little shorter. The Chinese season tends to be a little shorter. The Brazilian season, they both tend to start a little later than the teams do in Europe. I think there can be some real advantages to that. I think it depends on the player. Let's say somebody's been with our program 6 or 7 years already. They probably don't need a 7-month season, and they probably don't need 50 matches to shore up their resume or their experience or their skills or their vision. When you've played for a longer period of time, then a shorter season once in a while can be a nice benefit. Another nice benefit could be not traveling overseas and playing professionally in the new professional women's league here called Athletes Unlimited. There's another separate league that is looking to start up, but the one that has actually held 2 successful seasons, is Athletes Unlimited. So, for example, Morgan Hentz played this past spring there. Other of our players have played there. Jordan Larson played a season there last year and set herself up for a great Olympic season, and that was part of that process. So there are a lot of choices, but there can be some real benefits to playing a shorter season. There can also be some benefits, the challenge of learning a new language and things like that, for playing a 7 or 8 month season in a country far away. learning how to be more on your own with less support than you might get, much less support than you might get from a good athletic department like the University of Oregon would offer, and other schools would offer too. Learning to be more self-sufficient. And if you haven't played outside of college, it's a great way to catch up in terms of there's a big jump between college and the next level. And the more you're doing it, especially when you're young, there's something to be said for getting lots and lots of matches, lots of chances to fail, to screw it up, and to learn how to do it better.
Right. Mm-hmm. What about the foreign policy? Have you noticed any challenges of any of your players playing at the highest level of competition based on the foreigner policy, having the limited number of foreigners allowed per team?
That's a good question. Each league has its own different rules in terms of how many foreigners they allow, both to be on the team, secondly, to be suited up, have a uniform on, and most importantly, how many foreigners who are not citizens of that country can actually be on the court at once. So, for example, it works to our benefit. You spent some time with us this past summer at what we call the bro position, the libero. We say libero position. The best place for liberos, American bros, to be playing is Germany, because they don't actually have a foreigner limitation. And when there is a limit in terms of foreigners, those few precious spots tend to be allocated to people who play at the net and score points with kills and blocks and things like that. The bro position tends to be undervalued. So it's been a long, long time since any American bro has played in the Italian league, for example. They have very few foreign bros. The only one playing there that I'm aware of right now is a very good bro from the Dominican Republic, Brenda Castillo. But besides that, it just doesn't happen that much because they allocate those precious few foreigner positions to the people who score the points and don't give enough credit to the people who help set up those points with a good first touch or second touch.
Mm-hmm. I've definitely witnessed that just watching my peers go overseas and seeing different liberos. So since you've started with the women's national team in 2012, have you noticed any players not wanting to go overseas and stopping volleyball that have been competing with the women's national team at all?
Yes, we've got several examples. The one I could point to was somebody like Kayla Banworth, World Championships 2015 at World Cup and in Rio in 2016 at the Olympics. Kayla played a couple of seasons overseas, and eventually it just wore her down too much. It was affecting her mental health. And so she just said, you know, Karch, could I can't stay on with this team that happened to be in the capital of Azerbaijan. They used to have a league there. So that was in the city of Baku. And Kayla said, look, I can't take this. I feel like if I stick with this the whole season, I'm going to be a pile of goo at the end, and I'm not going to be able to continue to pursue my best self in volleyball. So we worked it out. We said, all right, let's test. Why don't you come home? I'm around. We have another assistant coach around. We can serve you a bunch of volleyballs. We can hit at you. We can give you some chances to do the individual skills. You're going to lose out on some things because you're not going to get to play 6-on-6 volleyball and see much of that. But mental health is a significant factor. And if somebody is depleted in that or struggling in that, they'll never be the player that they want to be. So we experimented with it. And then in the 2015 season, Kayla was in a much better place because she did not have to endure agony overseas. She played a really nice season. And so we said, okay, that experiment worked. Let's do it again in the year leading into the 2016 Olympic. And we decided to stay inside the country and play Athletes Unlimited. Of course, Athletes Unlimited didn't exist when Kayla was playing, but that would have been a great option. That can be a really good option for some of our bros who are a part of this program if they can't find something pretty good, a good team to play for in Germany or France. Those are probably their best chances of finding good teams to play for.
That's why I'm loving just all of the U.S. pro leagues that are starting up. Like you said, we have Athletes Unlimited. Hopefully we'll have LOVB starting within the next couple of years and get some clubs around the country with that. So if you were to construct your perfect league here in the United States that is in accordance to the women's national team schedule, and like you said, getting just more time with the girls in the gym, what would that calendar year look like for you?
I think I love the work that Athletes Unlimited has done, and I've been honest with them about this too. 5 weeks is not ideal. 5 weeks and 15 matches. It's better than nothing, but I think a significant season, a real season with regular season and playoffs that maybe ends up being around 30 matches would be more helpful. So maybe that's a January to April type season, something with a little more than just 5 weeks of volleyball. I also think it's a little difficult. Athletes Unlimited has a very different concept. You play a week, and then at the end of the week, all 4 teams break up and there's a draft and the teams completely reform. So I think there's something to be said for having teams actually be able to stick together, work together a little longer and build some of their own style and tactics and techniques. But that's just not a part of the Athletes Unlimited equation. League One sounds like they are aspiring to have a more of a significant season and teams that stay together. And so that might be closer to the ideal, but we'll see. That's only talk. We'll see what happens when they actually get to rolling out the league.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Is there anything you'd like to add to any athletes that are aspiring to go professional, or anything that you want to add to your volleyball fans out there in the U.S.?
I guess the only other thing I'd add is that hopefully the fans out there, well, first of all, they're probably excited because college volleyball is around the corner. And so fall is always an exciting time. It's an exciting time even for us who are not directly involved, because that's where all of our future players come from, all of our past players. Everybody played college volleyball at a high level who's a part of the USA team. And so we love following that and cheering everybody on. So this is an exciting time of year, but we also have an exciting time of the year for fans of volleyball beyond college, with the men having played a very good VNL recently, a strong second place there, and they're about to leave in about 2 weeks for their world championships. So I'd say please go on to the FIVB.com website or a number of other websites that are going to follow all the action there. And then our women's team will start competition in late September. I think our first match is September 24th, but we too are excited to play our world championships. There will also be some other tournaments, Pan American Cup and Pan American Cup Final Six, but World Championships is the big one at the end of this season. It'll be co-hosted in Poland and Netherlands. And so if anybody happens to be in the vicinity, come on out and cheer us on. We're not going to have many Americans watching live, but hopefully we'll have some watching on the stream and cheering us on.
Well, thank you so much, Karch. It was so great to hear from you. Thank you for coming on. And thank you guys all for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe to watch next week's episode 6, and we'll see you next time.